Show your TBAL team spirit and buy your hardworking art lab team a cup of coffee, which helps fuel purchases of high-octane equipment and TBAL tech that get poured back into percolating, highly caffeinated content for you. Just go to buymeacoffee.com and search Therapy Bites.
On this episode of Therapy Bites Art Lab.
Welcome, T-Ballers. Now's a great time to smash that subscribe button. Also, catch up on our cool, crunchy, bi-weekly CouchCrumbs newsletter. Visit the TBAL Team Page using the link I'll drop in the show notes. Hey, T-Ballers, get those ear canals ready because our guest today is bringing some audio electricity to recharge your life. Are you running low on battery power? Have you lost those charging cables in your life? Has the Energizer bunny up and left the building of your brain? Well, we're streaming Art Lab's own human battery charger, Dr. Denise Moore Revel, onto the Therapy Bites podcast to share her life-electrifying secrets of supercharging your life on an episode we call Supercharged Living, Psychology of Personal Power. Beware, there'll be challenging thinking ahead, T-Ballers, but it just might change your life by charging up your mind.
Stay tuned following the interview for On the Couch and Off the Rocker. Our special guest's psychosilly analysis by Art Lab's own head cabbager, Dr. Ima Freudnot.
Welcome to Therapy Bites Art Lab, where Dr. Heath and his special guests share real-life stories of helping and healing, fresh from the actual therapy couch, while taking a bite out of common counseling missteps and misconceptions. And now, here's Heath and the TBAL team.
T-Ballers, welcome to another great episode of Therapy Bites Art Lab. And in the studio today, we have Dr. Denise Moore Revel, and she's going to be talking to us about supercharged living, the psychology of personal power. Dr. Denise is a battery charger for humans. She's a CEO and founder and award-nominated best-selling author, speaker, personal development coach for over a quarter of a century. Gosh, that makes her sound really old. For over a quarter of a century, she's literally helped people find their voices. And as a speech-language pathologist, that's a fancy word for therapist, as a speech-language therapist, her job has been helping clients all over the nation discover their voice and master their voice. Dr. Denise founded an organization called Your Own Your Own Amazing. Own your own amazing, and I probably said that wrong, but she'll correct me when we get her on the stage here. And that's an extension of the message of finding your own voice and living your worth, W-O-R-T-H, living your worth out loud. She does coaching, mentoring, workshops. She empowers women to find their unique voice, live their worth out loud, and create amazing lives they love. Now, did I say your last name right? I always like to nail it the first time, but is it Revel or Revel?
It's actually Revel.
Revel. Oh, my goodness. Oh, I'm so disappointed in myself. Revel. Actually, I love that better. Dr. Denise Moore Revel. Hey, you do all kinds of wonderful, interesting things. I remember way back in my consulting days, I loved the initials, insane initials, PTOTST. And I will go all over the country, and that it was such a great team. It was the heyday of rehab. It was in the 90s. And I thought that speech-language pathology was one of the coolest things. And you guys have all kinds of tips, tricks, techniques, technology to help people actually use one of the most important things in all of human experience, and that is their voice. But it seems like there's so much noise in life that people lose their voice, and that's not through physiological problems. You know, my field is psychology. They lose their voice because of psychological problems and distorted messages and nasty messages that they tell themselves about themselves. How do you tell us about your work?
Absolutely. So I have been a speech therapist for 28 years now. Yeah, I'm old. But it has been an amazing journey again, like you said, to help people to learn to communicate and to really to have their voice. Because I've had clients to literally lose their physical voices. And so with that, I understand the voice, the power of communication is so important. And so the work that I do now as a personal development coach is really trying to empower people to find that voice again. For some people for the first time, but to understand the power of living your worth out loud, living authentically, your lived expression. So I love what I do, passionate about what I do as a speech therapist, but also as a personal development coach as well, and helping people to find that voice as well.
That is amazing. And today we're going to pick your brain on finding your purpose. There's lots of folks in the world. They're just really existing because, and they don't really have a compass. And your purpose, I think, as a clinician, your purpose is your compass. We'll talk a little bit about discovering your own amazing self. And I look forward to hearing about some common hurdles and how you charge up to overcome those, and especially with your own experience. I'm going to guess that this didn't just fall out of the sky and come natural to you. I would guess that, like most of us, you had your own journey and your own hurdles, and I think it'd be very helpful for our listeners, our audience, to hear about those and really make it real for them.
Absolutely. So, no, it didn't come naturally for me. This journey of self-discovery, it started, several years ago, but it really came to head about 7 years ago. I had done everything everyone told me to do, went to school, got a great job, but I still wasn't happy. I felt like there was something missing. And so, I came from a generation where children are supposed to be seen, but not heard. So I felt like I wasn't being heard in my own life. I wasn't listening to my own voice. So about 7 years ago, I went to a weekend retreat to help me to find out what was going on inside of me. And so the story goes that the night that I arrived, I went out to dinner with one of the attendees, and we got to know each other, just sharing our life stories and all of that. So the next day, it was time for everyone who was at this retreat to be in the room, to be coached by the coach. And so every person had an opportunity to come to the front of the room to get poured into, to get coaching, right? And so as I'm sitting in the audience and looking at everyone else, they're crying, they're very emotional. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, why are they crying? Why are they emotional? But okay, whatever. So now it's my turn. When I tell you, as soon as I sat down in the chair, I started crying. I was like, oh my God. And so she was like, what is going on with you? And I said, I don't know. I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled. I don't know what's going on with me. And so the young lady who I had gone out to dinner with the night before, she raised her hand and said, I know what's going on with you. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, you don't. We just met. How do you know me? You don't really know me. All those things are going through my mind, but I didn't say any of those things. But I looked at her and I said, so what's going on with me? She said, I met you last night. You're smart. You're brilliant. You're talented. You have all these things going for you. She said, but you don't own it. She said, you need to own your amazing and stop playing small. I was like, oh my God, that's it. How do you know me so well? But she helped me to language what I had been feeling, that I didn't have a voice. I was playing small. I wasn't living my worth out loud. I was doing everything all these other voices was telling me to do, but I wasn't living for myself and I wasn't fulfilled. And so that's when I said, I have to share this message, this movement with other people, because I know other people are going through the same things I'm going through. And so that's how the Own Your Amazing movement started. It's that I am here to tell people you have a voice, you have a unique voice, and it's time to use your voice to better you and other people in your world.
Wow, that's a fantastic, fantastic story and fantastic journey, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. I think that we suffer from a certain type of blindness. We're looking in all the wrong places. We're looking at other people's reactions. We're looking at thinking ahead in the future about how we may mess up. We're looking ahead to all the wrong things, and we become blinded to our own potential. And I would guess that's your work, is waking people up and helping them open their eyes to their own potential and
who they really are. And so the first question that I ask someone when they work with me is, Who are you? For you, not for other people, not what other people think, what other people say, but who are you for you? How do you identify yourself? How do you define yourself? What makes you happy? What makes you sad? And because these are questions that we don't often get to answer. You know, we look outside of ourselves for validation, confirmation. But at the end of the day, I always say the most important relationship you will ever have is the one that you have with yourself. And that is the relationship we neglect the most. We put our spouses, our children, our work, our family, our friends, everyone before ourselves. And we wonder why we're not happy. We live a life of quiet desperation where we're really not fulfilled and happy. We don't get up, lighten up and can't get on with our day because we're not happy, because we haven't taken the time to say, well, who am I for me? What makes me happy? What makes me fulfilled? And let me go about doing that.
Well, I find that there's a bit of a continuum, that there are people on one end of the continuum that they don't do what you're recommending that they do. They don't spend time nurturing themselves, providing themselves what I would call good psychological nutrition. They don't take care of their health, their mindset. But then you have folks on the other side of the continuum that are just completely self-absorbed, that they always come first, and that comes at the expense of all the relationships and their spouses and their children. My question is, how do you help people differentiate between self-care and self-absorption?
I think the difference is once you have self-care and self-love, you understand that I can love me and you. It's not all about me all the time. Because a lot of times people who are very self-absorbed, they are really looking for self-love. They're really looking for that attention and validation. But I say, if I give it to myself, I don't need it from you. If I feel good about who I am, I don't need to seek your approval. I don't need to seek your validation. I don't have to look outside of me to love me. And so I think the problem is a lot of times you find people like that, they're not really loving themselves because they're so needy. And they're like, I need all the attention. Well, give it to yourself. And you don't have to be a leech to other people or an energy drain.
A psychological leech.
Because if I'm good with me, I'm okay for you to do your thing. I'm okay for you to shine. I don't have to try to control you because I'm okay with me. I just think a lot of people just aren't okay with themselves. And then they look outside of themselves for all this attention and validation and selfies and posing, Instagram and all that. It's like, I'm okay. I don't need all of that to feel good about who I am.
Hey, Dr. Denise, do you find sometimes that when you ask those people that first question, do you find that there's people that just say, I don't know. I really don't know. Do you have many people like that?
I have most people like that.
Well, and when you do, how do you help them? How do you help them discover what they want and what they enjoy, and in other words, to kind of open up that way? How do you do that?
And so I just go asking questions like, if you could wake up tomorrow and go do what you love, what would that look like? What does your ideal day look like? What does your work look like? If you didn't have to worry about getting paid and paying the bills or worrying about criticism from other people, what would you do? Or I ask simple questions like, what kind of ice cream do you like? And they'd be like, chocolate. How do you know you like chocolate? Well, I don't know. I've always liked chocolate. Just simple questions like getting in tune with yourself, because there were times with things I say, yeah, I like that. When I thought about it, I really don't like that. I don't like that. Oh, okay. And it's okay for me not to like something or to say something, because a lot of times, here's the thing I understand too. A lot of times we do know what we want or what we don't want. We just have not given ourselves permission to voice it. That's when I say, live your worth out loud. What is it that you want? What lights you up? I just think, again, a lot of us come from that generation. Children should be seen, but not heard. And so we don't think we have a right to voice our concerns, our opinions, our likes or dislikes, because maybe in the past you got criticized, you got belittled, you got put down, you were told to be quiet, sit in the corner, just because you wanted to express your thoughts, your ideas. And so now I work with people like, what do you want? I don't want to hear what you think you should want. Like, what is it that you really want for yourself? And be okay with that.
we always recommend to folks in the art lab thinking about your thinking. When you think about what you want, the question isn't, for us anyway in the art lab, just do you want it, but how does what you're saying you want actually move your life forward? I may want a whole case of honey buns, but I can guarantee you that eating that whole case of honey buns is not going to move me in a healthier direction. And do you find that you help people steer away from some unhealthy things and more toward healthy things that may serve their lives better?
Absolutely. Again, when people really stop and think about what they really want, most people, if you're healthy, want what's best for you. I know eating a case of honey buns is not best for me. Even when I'm eating a pint of ice cream, I know it's not best for me. I know that. And so we got to move people to say, what do you want? You're worthy of having whatever you want that's good for your life. But a lot of times we have so many layers of I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. That's why I say own your amazing. Because most people think they're amazing. They think there's something wrong with them, that they're not deserving, they're not good enough. All these things we've been told, all those voices that saying, no, you're not good enough. But I'm here to say, no, you're amazing. You are special. You are unique. There's no one like you. Own that. Revel in that, right?
Revel. I like what you did there.
So yeah, you got to revel in it, And so I think once we get people in that mindset, it's easier for them to make healthy choices. It's easier for them to say, I'm going to do things that's going to take care of me, to give me life, to give me vitality, and ultimately to give me that dream life that I know I want, and I think I deserve it, but you can really ultimately have it. Yeah.
I suspect that you run into lots and lots of examples of people just saying nasty things about themselves. What are some of the things that you hear people say about themselves that are just nasty, sabotaging messages that they just continually tell themselves?
Oh, absolutely. I'm ugly. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. I mean, so many things. So there's a workshop I do, and one of the exercises I do in the workshop, we actually talk about what are you saying to yourself, especially when you make a mistake or you don't get it right. And so I start out by saying, you have this little kid, I work a lot with young children. So you have this little kid who falls down. What would you say to that kid? Would you say, you idiot, you can't walk? What is wrong with you? You're never going to get it right. No, we would never say anything horrible like that to a child. But the moment we mess up, we fall down, we are hard on ourselves. We tell ourselves horrible things. And so during that exercise, I told the people, I said, imagine that you are that small child. What would you say to you when you make a mistake? And let's change that conversation. Let's change that self-talk. So you're saying things it's going to empower you to get back up, to try it again, to say, okay, I didn't get it this time, but I can try it again next time. I'm going to get it. All those encouraging messages. The self-talk is so critical. And I tell people some of the things we say to ourselves, we would never say to other people, but we say it to ourselves all the time. And we have to stop that.
I completely agree. Mm-hmm. That is so very true. They say confession, the good book says confession's good for the soul. My habit, and it really was a habit, when I dropped something, when I stumbled, when I messed something up, screwed something up, my favorite word to me was stupid. And I really had to break myself. Train would be a better word. I had to train myself to pick a different word. There's so much power, programming power in words, that why would you tell yourself nasty things about yourself that is so sabotaging? Those nasty things we tell ourselves actually reduce our performance level. I've told the story before about a young man I was doing therapy with, and the deal was we would intersperse therapy with shooting basketball, and he was really, really good. And I told him to stand at the free throw line, and this kind of dates myself, but the big ball player at the time was Michael Jordan, and in Arkansas it was Sidney Moncrief. Pretend that you're Sidney Moncrief. He went on to own a car dealership, fabulously successful and wealthy. And I said, imagine you're one of these big time ball players, and he just shot it out of the park. I mean, he just it was just nothing but net every single time. It was that good. But then, to show you the power of belief, we did some therapy reminding him of all the nasty things his father used to say to him. And we rehearsed those and talked about those things. And here's my point, that when those nasty things were weighing on his mind, his next turn up at the free throw line was, I don't know, he might have made 1 out of 10 or none out of 10. You see, what he was hearing, his father say, just the echoes of those memories curtailed and foreshortened his performance. And I found that I was doing the same thing to myself. When you tell yourself nasty things about yourself, your brain just tends to believe it. So find the things which are good psychological nutrition, and I recommend writing them down and rehearsing those every day. We're big advocates of mindfulness. Mm-hmm. That's a great mindfulness activity, to have those in front of you and rehearse those things. Dr. Denise, what are some cool secret tips that you could share with our audience about owning their own amazing?
I love the whole writing it down. I'm an advocate of journaling, big advocate of that. But as a speech pathologist talking, there have been times when I would speak the messages in my recorder, my phone, and go back and listen to it. Again, hearing your own voice is very powerful. Again, that's one of the exercises I have people to do, is listen to your own voice, like literally record yourself saying your affirmations and saying it back to you, because your brain is kind of like, wait a minute, that's me. And like, yeah, that's me talking to me. And so that's one of the tips, the strategies that I use a lot, not only writing them, but also speaking them out loud and then recording them so you can go back and hear your own voice. Again, we hear so many other voices that we drown out our own. And so I have my clients to say, to record themselves, like, listen to your voice. And also I have them say, listen to how unique it is. You listen to how special it is. No one else on this planet has a voice exactly like another person. That to me is amazing. And so we need, again, to celebrate our uniqueness and our ability, and our brilliance. Also, I tell clients to look and see who can benefit from you. A lot of times we don't see our own worth and value. And so I say, well, what can you do that somebody can benefit from? How big, small, whatever. And again, it helps my clients to see that who you are is special and amazing, and someone needs you to show up exactly the way you are.
I completely agree. I have a question for you as an SLP, speech language pathologist, because I hear some of our audience, I'm imagining our audience saying, but Dr. Denise, I hate the sound of my voice. Can you talk to us as a speech language pathologist? Why might a recorded voice be so alarming, or our own recorded voice be so alarming to us, and how do we get used to that?
I hear that all the time. Every time I ask my clients to do that, they're like, no, I hate my voice. But I have to say, it's your voice. It's yours. Celebrate it. Embrace it. No one else sounds like you. And so I just tell them to do it, to listen to it over and over and over. And after a few times, they get comfortable hearing their own voice and see, like, that is my voice, I am the youngest of 5 children, and I love the fact that when I call my mom or call my dad, as soon as I say hello, they know my voice, as opposed to my siblings' voices, because it's mine. And so we need to really just celebrate it. I listen to voices all day. I've been listening to voices for 28 years, and no one voice is the same. That is amazing.
That is so very true, and I completely agree. That is so very amazing that the voice that you have has never, ever existed before your existence, and it will never exist after your existence. And you might say, oh, but what about these guys and gals that mimic voices and they're voice actors and character actors and all that? If you put them side by side on a computer program, the computer knows the difference because they're not the same. They only sound the same to you because your brain, the psychological mechanism is called assimilation. Your brain assimilates similarities between I don't know, Jim Carrey doing Robert De Niro or something.
Right.
But it's not the same. It can't be the same. I don't care how hard a voice actor, character actor works. They'll never, ever get it absolutely right. And I love how Mr. Rogers puts this. I should have the quote here, but I don't. And it's back to what I said earlier, that there has never been a you in the entire universe, and after you, there will never again be another you. And I think that's meaningful. Think about it. If the universe could spit out another you, it might do it, but it just can't do it. It just can't. You are the only you that will ever exist. And that means to me that you're here for a purpose. And this is what Dr. Denise is talking about. What are some ways that you had to buckle down and really focus on finding your own purpose? Because what I find, people that it almost seems like the more people get educated, such as at your level, the more they get educated, the more doubts they have about themselves, which is really kind of ironic that highly educated people have all these sabotaging thoughts that, well, you know, the imposter syndrome thing, which I kind of poo-poo that. I'm not a fan of that. Not because it's not cool and not because it doesn't exist, but because it ignores what's really going on. And that is, I'm telling myself, I'm choosing to believe some distorted thoughts about myself. The question is, what are those distorted thoughts? Such as, they're going to find out I'm a fake. They're going to find out I'm not as good as they thought I was. They're going to find out I'm going to be revealed on national TV. Have you struggled with those kind of thoughts related to yourself?
For full show notes and transcript of today's episode, go to therapybites.podbean.com. Welcome to Social Media Smackdown. Tonight, the irresistible force meets the illogical object. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to reason!
Hey guys, it's time for some Social Media Smackdown, and there's some nonsense going on the internet about sleep. And I saw a post the other day that I'm here to bring your attention to. The recommendations are fix your schedule to sleep at 9 p.m. 7 hours of sleep is enough. If you oversleep, you'll get mental disorders like depression. That if you oversleep, it increases your chance of death. If you oversleep, it increases your chance of having poor memory. If you oversleep, it increases your chances of feeling tired, and that you can eliminate this awful feeling by sleeping just enough. Well, listen up, guys. It's mostly accurate. However, since people are not cookies, a cookie-cutter approach even to sleep is ill-advised. Some do okay on 7 hours, but many require 8 or even 9, and that depends on many factors such as genetics, activity level, neurophysiology, metabolic rate, etc., etc. Sleep is a bit comparable to hydration. Imagine telling folks that you only need 8 glasses of water a day, no matter what. And drinking more than that is bad for you. Oops, we actually used to tell people that they only needed 8 glasses of water a day. But now just look up a hydration calculator and you can see that hydration is particular to the person, not to some set standard. Makes sense, guys? Sleep well tonight, but do it based on factors specific to you and your life. DocHeath, Social Media Smackdown. Don't believe all the Kool-Aid drinking pseudo-psychological nonsense you find there. Wisen up and smack that stuff down.
What a slobber knocker! The winner by Psychological Smackdown, DocHeath! No pronouns were harmed during the production of this podcast.
You're listening to Therapy Bites Art Lab, bite-sized therapy for your brain with Dr. Heath and the TBAL Team. The best advice on the net. No copay required.
Individual psychological concepts are very different animals from one another. And while they are often readily observable in the wild, the TherapyBites Art Lab Zoo affords us a unique opportunity to study them in a safe and controlled environment. Welcome to the TherapyBites Art Lab Creature Feature. Oh, good heavens!
Oh my goodness. Is that a flamethrower? You gotta be kidding me. Whoa, 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 whoa. Don't you point that thing at me. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Woo. Hey T-ballers. Make sure I get all the fire patted out here. Excuse me, that was a little bit crazy. That is, let me get my brain together here. That was intense. I am Safari Sarah, your host, and today's creature feature is on a very interesting, slightly violent critter called a catastrophizing ant. You'll know them if you see them. They have they're little red ants. They've got bazookas and flamethrowers and all sorts of things. So basically, what these little guys do is they take a situation that would probably be maybe a level, 0.5 or below catastrophe on the catastrophe scale, and they shoot it up to a level 10. They try to say that every situation is going to just turn out horribly. It's going to be catastrophic. There's no way to get away from it. And like a real life example of this would be maybe if you make a bad grade in grad school, maybe you make a C on a test, and all you think is, oh my gosh, I'm going to get kicked out of the program, I'm going to get kicked out of college, this is going to be horrible, there's no way for me to recover from this. And it's maybe just the first quiz of the semester, and you have like 1,000 points left in the semester. So you're actually going to be okay. You're just ignoring important aspects of the situation. So the best way to, oh my goodness, and here he is. The best way to, and I'm going to whisper this, I don't like the way he's looking at me. The best way to handle these little guys is to practice ARTs, accurate, realistic thoughts, and use them to exterminate and replace these little guys, because you don't want them running amok in your brain. It's not a good thing. But anyways, thank you for joining me on this creature feature, and I look forward to the next one. And enjoy the rest of the episode. I'm going to run for my life now. Bye-bye. Ah!
Thank you for joining us for the TherapyBites Art Lab Creature Feature.
Live the art life. Become a TBAL Teammate Inner Circle supporter on Patreon at patreon.com/therapybites.
Here's Heath and the TBAL team.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I joke about, getting a PhD and all those kind of good things because for years I struggled with believing I was smart until my personal development coach, she was like, well, didn't you have to be smart to get the degree? I was like, oh, yeah. So for even with my accomplishments, even with doing well in school and business and my career, there was still this self-doubt. This still like, am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Because again, I was listening to other voices, comparing myself to other people. I don't do that anymore. I'm owning my amazing, but I realize that who I am is enough. What I have is enough. Maybe it's not like someone else's, and it doesn't have to be. And that's the thing. But you have a lot of high achievers, feeling like what I have isn't enough. I still have to strive for more because for whatever reason, that was the message that landed that, you have to be more. You have to have more. You got to get more. And to finally say, that's enough. I'm enough. If I choose to get more, it's because of not me trying to measure up, but because this is what fills me up. That's a difference. And so I just think a lot of people do struggle with not feeling enough and then going out and trying to get all these outside material things or these outside things to make them feel that they're enough.
And let me just kind of offer a bit of a sculpting of what Dr. Denise just said, and this is a TherapyBites Art Lab thing, kind of a neuroscience thing. Feelings are wonderful. I have feelings all the time. I'm having feelings currently. I can feel my rear end on the couch. I can feel my coffee cup in my hand. I can feel all kinds of things. My glasses on the bridge of my nose. But here's the thing. There is no feeling that is evidence that you're enough. there is no presence of a non-preferred feeling that means you're not enough. Why? Because feelings are not evidence. Imagine applying the whole feelings thing to your bank account. You go to Walmart or Target or wherever, and you're going to buy a big screen TV that costs, I don't know, $1,500. What feeling tells you there's enough money in your bank account? None. You start writing checks based on emotions, happy, sad, mad, glad, disgusted, shame, stress, depressed, anxious, angry feelings, then you're going to wind up writing some hard checks. What feeling tells you how fast you should drive? I hate to bring up bad news, but April the 15th is coming. That'll be in a few months. That's tax day for those in the U.S. Try that with your taxes. The IRS comes knocking, and they say, oh, I'm sorry, DocHeath, you did not pay your taxes this year. Why is that? I just didn't feel like it. And the IRS is going to say, oh, well, that's important. We want our taxpayers to have a fuzzy wuzzy before they pay their taxes. No, they're going to cart me off to prison. I think Wesley Snipes tried that, one of my favorite actors. It didn't work out well for him. So don't think that there's a feeling that is evidence of your self-worth or lack of your self-worth, and here's why. I'll just mention Pavlov's dogs, and you guys listening can Google that. Because in the absence of that preferred emotion, you'll think that you lack worth.
Yes.
And that's not healthy programming for your brain. Base your belief in worth on evidence. Dr. Denise can look at, hard-won life experience. She's lived this stuff. Now, she's got a doctorate in this stuff, but she's also lived it. And then there's the education, and then there's people she's helped. I mean, it's just evidence all day long of her worth. But guess what our brains are going to do? Our brains, which, by the way, some of you that have listened for a while have heard me say that the brain creates thoughts the way blizzards create snowflakes. It's just what the brain does. Just because the brain comes up with a thought, here's a disturbing thought that I like to pick. Strip naked, paint your body purple, and run down the interstate. Now, that's a thought, and if you're watching me on the YouTube channel, it would be a disturbing thought, which is why I won't do that. But I'd get arrested doing that kind of stuff. But I'd get on national TV. Local doc loses his mind, runs naked, painted purple down the interstate. Epictetus did talk about being the purple thread, but not the naked purple running man. That's a thought, but that thought has no value. My point is, when it comes to thoughts about you, only you can decide which of those thoughts have value. And the thought that you don't measure up, that you don't count, that you're not worth anything, you can safely realize, based on the evidence, that stuff simply has no value. Give us your thoughts on the whole permission thing.
Yeah, permission. Again, it goes back to, like you said, people thinking that they can't have certain things, or they're not worth certain things, but in reality, we all are. But some people, historically, or just through life, have been told, no, you're not worthy. No, you can't have it. But in reality, it's that we really can. And so, but a lot of people are still stuck in thinking like, that's not me. That's not for me. And so for some people, like, you just have to give yourself permission to say yes to yourself. Give yourself permission to say yes, instead of waiting on other people to validate, to confirm you. It's like, no, you have to give yourself permission to go after your life, to live your life to the best of your ability, to go after your dreams, your goals. When I first started my practice, but a lot of people are waiting for other people to tell them what to do, how to do it. And so my message is like, give yourself permission to go for whatever it is that you want to go for.
Now, I'd like to get your thoughts on, following up on that, I'd like to get your thoughts on this, because my favorite thing to do is to think about stuff. And I think about wild and crazy stuff. My wife and I have been together coming on this summer, will be 40 years. And she's learned to not ask me what I'm thinking about, because she'll walk up and say, what are you thinking about? And I'll say, now, wait a minute. Do you really want to know, or are you just asking? And she'll get this deer in the headlight look and say, I'm just asking. Meaning I don't want to know. Because I tell her and she'll say, what sane human being sits around and thinks about that kind of stuff? And I'll say, this human being right here, this human being right here. Well, here's my thought on this, because this has become a bit of a colloquialism. The whole thing, I'm going to burst some balloons here. People get ready, pull your boxer shorts up and get ready, everybody, because I love tackling colloquialisms. It's my considered psychological recommendation that you listeners put aside the being seen and being heard, and here's why. Because, number one, it's mind reading. You don't know if I can see you or not. You don't know if I can hear you or not. And so telling me that I don't see or hear you is distracting yourself from what you should be focused on anyway, which is just, as Dr. Denise is pointing out, putting your voice out there. Forget about who's listening. Forget about who's not listening. Forget about who can see you. Forget about who doesn't see you. That is just all a big distraction. We call that in the art lab a gray herring. In logic, a red herring is a distraction from the argument. In our way of thinking about neuroscience, a gray herring, the color of your cell bodies, all our brains are pretty much gray, some white matter in there, but mostly gray matter, is a gray herring because it's a distraction from just getting up and moving on and moving forward and speaking your message. Forget about who's listening. That doesn't matter. It just matters who you sow, or what you're sowing. And what you're sowing, your message, are seeds, and it's not up to you where they take root. Your job is just sowing the seeds. Just get out there and sow some seeds. Forget about who's listening. Forget about who's hard of hearing. Forget about who's deaf to your message. Speak your message. Someone needs to hear that. Make sure it's accurate, but someone needs to hear that.
We've been talking a lot about not having the negative talk to yourself and kind of discovering who we are. So is that like finding our personal identity, and is that really important?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I talk a lot about personal identity because I believe that you make decisions based on who you believe you are, not what other people really think about you. Because you're going to move forward, you're going to make decisions, you're going to put yourself out there based upon how you see yourself. I use the example where I had a coworker who was amazing. She did great work, and I recommended her for a promotion, but she talked herself out of it. She's like, no, I don't think so. I don't know if I can do it. That seems too much. But a lot of times other people can see our greatness and our amazingness, but if we don't see it for ourselves, then we don't move. We don't take the shot. We don't get ourselves in the game. And so a lot of times people ask me, like when I started my practice, like, what made you decide to do it? How did you leave a job and go get out there and start your own business? And I said, because I believed I could do it. I was betting on me. I thought, I was like, I can do it. I've seen other people do it. I know I can do it too. And so a lot of times, again, this whole identity is like, who do you say you are for yourself? Not what other people think. It's not about looking outside of yourself. We look so much outside of ourselves because that's where we talk to look. But I'm asking people to go inside and say, well, who are you? Look at you. How do you identify you? Do you think you can do it? Then do it. Do you think you have what it takes? Then go for it. But a lot of times the message that I'm seeing that I'm having to tell people is that you really do have what it takes, but you have to see it. I can't see it for you. Again, it says own your amazing. You can't own it for me, and I can't own it for you.
That's really good. And does that kind of go with like having a conversation with your younger self? And I saw you mention it in your bio about like giving advice to your younger self. Like, where does that come into play with the personal identity as well?
I think so. I think we need to take time to be very reflective. I talk about it all the time. I do a thing every Thursday morning, Facebook Live, called Think About It Thursday. So I have people really think about what they're thinking about. Like you said before, like, what are you thinking about? What are you considering? And so a lot of times lessons are learned when we take time to think about, like, what was I going through at that time? What's the lesson I can get from that? How can I take what I got from that experience to help me better, to help me move forward, to continue to shift how I see myself and how I'm entering the world. So I think it's always important that we sit back and say, what would I tell my younger self that I know now? It's a lot it's a lot we would probably do differently if we had an opportunity, but we can't. All we can do is move forward with the information that we know and go for it that way. But I think it's important about just being reflective and learning your lessons.
And Dr. Denise, your book is called Own Your Amazing. It's award nominated. It's a bestseller. Tell us a little bit about why you chose to write this book. Okay, number one, why'd you choose? What was it that really got you over the tipping point from thinking about writing it to writing it? And what were some of the tough things you had to overcome to do that?
Absolutely. So the story behind that is that I never thought I could write a book. Writing has always been a challenge for me. I'm a talker. That's why I'm a speech therapist. But writing was one of those things that was challenging for me. So I remember my senior year in high school. I had done well in school, and so got to my senior year. My high school English teacher told me I was one of the worst writers he had ever had. Yikes. And he had been teaching for years. So I'm like, oh my God. So the little bit of confidence I had in my writing went totally out the window at that point. And so got through it, went to college, had to write papers. Still was a struggle, but I, made sure I got done what I needed to get done in terms of writing. And so lo and behold, decided to go back to school years ago, get my PhD. It was time for me to write my dissertation. I was like, oh my God, what was I thinking? I can't write. But again, got through it. So at that point in my life, I said, I'm never writing anything ever again in my life, other than some work-related stuff. And so my coach told me one day, she said, hey, I think you should write a book. I was like, no way, no how. Remember, I'm a terrible writer. That's what my high school English teacher said. I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. And so she said to me, but what if you can write your story, share yourself, your story, your tips and things about owning your amazing, that it could serve other people. And I was like, that's where she got me. That's what got me. I was like, yeah. And so that was the tipping point for me, is that I wrote it because I know other people have struggled with owning their amazing, understanding who they are, all those kind of things. So I wrote it to help and empower other people. But I never set out to say, hey, I'm going to write this book. I'm going to be this author. I'm going to get a nominated for an award. It was never that for me. It was always, how can I serve someone else who may be going through the same thing I'm going through to help them get through it better than what I went through. And so I was really proud of the fact my book got nominated for an award because they were looking at writers and people whose books were making an impact, not the number of books that were sold, but who have written a book that was trying to make an impact and make a difference in people's lives. And so I'm really proud of that. Even though I didn't win, I was glad to be nominated, that people saw and they see what I'm trying to do in terms of my message with Own Your Amazing.
Well, what a wonderful story. And we really appreciate you being here today. And we've got a couple more things to go. So you viewers, hang on. You listeners, hang on. There's some interesting things coming up. And one of those, well, just a quick recap. We've talked about finding your purpose, discovering your own amazing self, some common hurdles. I have had hurdles to overcome. Dr. Denise has had hurdles to overcome, as have Heather and Debbie, and Sarah's not here today, but she has too. Every clinician I've ever met has had their own hurdles to overcome. And so don't let that get in your way just because you have a hurdle. A different way of viewing a hurdle is to view it not as a hurdle, but as a stepping stone. As a stepping stone to success. No one reaches success without turning a stumbling stone into a stepping stone. Dr. Denise, I'd like to ask you to kind of go through the Rolodex of your mind, the book you've written, the work you've done, and what might be one or maybe two of your favorite self-confidence hacks.
I love that. Excuse me. For me, it is kind of remembering how far I've come. I think when we're out in the boat, we've left the shore. And I think it's important for sometimes to look back and say, wow, look how far I've come. look how much I have overcome to get to this point. Every day I just try to just be grateful and thankful for where I've come from and how far, still got a long way to go. But one of the hacks I do is I always just kind of remind myself, you've come a long way and you're doing fine. I think it's important that we just continue to celebrate ourselves, celebrate our small wins. I don't look for the big wins. I look for the small wins. I learned that years ago as a speech therapist. If I have a child who's nonverbal and I want them to talk, it may be a long time for that. But if they can just wave or something, give me something, we celebrate the wins. We throw small parades. And so I found that I have to do that for myself, is that I celebrate my small wins. And I don't wait for something big for me to congratulate myself or to be proud of myself. And I think it's a wonderful self-confidence builder that everyone can do. It's that we're quick to put ourselves down, but are we quick to celebrate our wins, even how small they may be? So celebrate the small wins, no matter what. And also just have a grateful and thankful heart. And also just be reflective in how far you've come in your journey.
All great advice. I hope you guys are writing this down. Don't do it while you're driving, but do go back and replay the episode, pen and paper in hand, or you can use your smartphone device. There's note sections there. But don't miss this stuff. Don't lose this stuff. Write this down, practice it, be mindful of it. And to put a psychological spin on what Dr. Denise just said, she, without knowing it, she was talking about shaping. What is shaping? You can use it with your kids. Goodness, you can use it with your spouse or your boss. You get really good at it. Shaping is the rewarding of successive approximations to the desired goal. I'll say that again. The rewarding of successive approximations to the desired goal. You don't have to hit home runs. Find value in getting a base hit. Just reward those small wins like Dr. Denise talked about. And we have, Dr. Denise has a next step and a freebie, or at least I'm calling it a freebie. I think unless I'm mistaken, they can contact you at www.ownyourAmazingNow.com. Own, O-W-N, your, while you are, amazing now, N-O-W.com. And it's at that website that she helps you begin the journey of finding your authentic self. And she has for you a daily authenticity checklist that can help you out. It would be a great first step. Any other thoughts on that, or how audience members can reach out to you or discover you, things you'd recommend, Dr. Denise?
Absolutely. Definitely go get the freebie, the checklist. It'll help you to kind of see, again, it's checking in with you to see, are you living authentically? Are you showing up the way you really want to show up in life? If not, then that's some things that you can work on with that. And I encourage you to also follow me on social media. On Facebook, I do my weekly little talk, but also you can be a part of the community and learn about upcoming events that we're going to be having, just to help people to continue to just show up more powerfully in their own lives.
And for those of you that really love this episode and you want to have a daily reminder of Dr. Denise's message, we are doing a commemorative show shirt and a commemorative show mug with Dr. Denise in her own little unique yoga pose that we fashioned for her today. We're going to ask her to hold the pose the whole time, but maybe that would have been more fun for us than it would have been for her. But her and her yoga pose will be on the mug and the shirt, and you can go to the TherapyBites Shopify store, and it'll show the title of the episode, the number of the episode, and of course, Dr. Denise and all of our little TBAL team is going to be under the couch. And we'll send Dr. Denise a gift certificate. She can get hers for free for being on the show. And she'll take us some product selfies and post them to her followers. We have one more thing to do, and then we'll let her get about her busy schedule. But it's that part of the episode where DocHeath goes beneath the therapy couch to pull out a question just for Dr. Denise. And Heather's going to put me on the overhead cam there, and I'm going to reach under here and pull it out. Okay. I'll put my coffee mug down here. By the way, these are also on the TherapyBites store. It says, if you have a hard time shutting people up, try listening to them instead. All right. Now, for the Freudian Dr. Denise question of the day. And I had several, and I just happened to choose this one. If you would think now of the most famous deceased female that comes to mind. Who is the most famous deceased female that comes to mind, and what sticks out to you about this person finding their voice and the difference they made in the world?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Yeah. I got a lot of names coming. Honestly, the first name that came to my mind was Mary, the mother of Jesus.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And how did her voice, why does that come to mind?
I have no idea. That's the first name that popped in my mind. Like, I don't know, it's because we're in this holiday season. I don't know. But she was a young woman. She was a young girl who was experiencing this amazing phenomena, you know? And so she had to have a lot of courage to carry the Messiah, you know, but to really show up as herself. I don't know why that came to me.
You know, it's interesting you should say that. We're coming up on Christmas. Yeah. I think that's fabulous that came to your mind. And for those of you that don't know the story, what Mary went through was put her in great danger. It was against her entire culture. It was against her entire religion. She found her voice and she spoke her voice, and it didn't really matter who was listening. And it could have cost her life. But look at the difference she made in the son that she gave birth to. And when you go through the Christmas season, remember that true reason for the season is Jesus, but he would not be here if not for Mary finding her own voice and carving out her own path. Yeah. Dr. Denise, thank you so much for being here. It was such a great pleasure. TherapyBites Art Labbers, thank you all for being here. Catch us on the next episode. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Welcome to On the Couch and Off Our Rocker with Dr. Ima Freudnot, where we review our special guest TherapyBites Art Lab episode, Psychomalarkey Scale Assessment Results. That's PMS for short.
Dr. Denise Moore Revel's PMS performance places her in the 97th percentile of the PMS's PPS, Personal Power Scale. This indicates a predilectable predisposition pointed towards a ponderous degree of driven dynamism in Dr. Denise's cortical crevices, and a top-down tendency toward tackling the hardest highways and the most burdensome byways in life. Overall, Dr. Revel's PMS psychosilimetric assessment results present a picture of an individual formidably focused and remarkably resilient, with a promising proclivity for packing her life with performance-driven projects, but who inculcates these implicit, imperturbable impulses by instructing other individuals, endowing them with similarly successful stratospheric strategies. This stirring soul likely has a profoundly promising prognosis of perpetually prognosticating a propitious plan in the near future, until these extraordinarily effluent features of her psyche have been psychomologically analyzed and exercised. It is my considered conclusion that Dr. Denise Moore Revel be prescribed no less than a 209 milligram IS intracellular dose of Revelovir and a 2300 milligram IC intracranial dose of PRN, Poweritol, for continued conquering cognition cumulation. Dr. Ima Freudnot, Chief Shrinkstigator, TherapyBites Art Lab.
Grab some of this episode's guest merchandise, specially designed to help keep this episode's message top of mind in your life. Don't forget friends and family members who could use an Art Lab mental boost too. Just go to therapybites.myshopify.com.
Hey T-Ballers, thanks so much for being with us today. If we brought value to your day, show us some love by leaving your positive feedback and inviting some friends to listen in and join the T-Ball Team. Next time, on Therapy Bites Art Lab.
Welcome, T-Ballers. Now's a great time to smash that subscribe button. Also, catch up on our cool, crunchy, biweekly CouchCrumbs newsletter. Just visit the TBAL Team Page using the link I'll drop for you in the show notes. Did you know a healthy self-concept can improve your relationships, your parenting effectiveness, and even your work performance? We're streaming our own guru of personal greatness, Jason Cercone, into the Art Lab on the TherapyBites podcast to share how he works behind the scenes, helping some big-time influencers recognize their own unique value. And these same strategies can give your own self-concept a much-needed boost. Rip the straps off your own self-concept straitjacket and join the TBAL team for real-life personal branding hacks you can use to saw through self-sabotaging, self-defeating thoughts. It's all fresh from the therapy couch, courtesy of self-esteem super branding coach Jason Cercone on an episode we call Owning Your Value, the Psychology of Self-Concept and Building Your Brand in Business, Home, and Life. Beware, there be challenging thinking ahead, T-Ballers. But it just might change your life by enhancing how you think about you.
Government legal gobbledygook. Therapy Bites is not intended as a diagnostic or as an alternative to professional clinical treatment. Resources and advice are for information and entertainment purposes only. Brought to you by someone saying things you don't like? Tape that nagging loudmouth shut. Government-approved speech tape. Gas tape. Now available at your local hardware store. Therapy Bites Art Lab is not an approved, endorsed, authorized, butt-kissing affiliate of the United States Special Offense Assessment Police. SOAP for short. Warning. Consumption of Therapy Bites Art Lab content by Kool-Aid drinking, stinking, thinking, social media, pseudo-psychological pushing, wacky woke, anti-free speech, mumbo-jumbo advocates may cause spontaneous internal skull combustion, stomach discomfort, and or laxative effects. Allergy warning. Therapy Bites is manufactured in a facility that challenges nutty distortions, processes nuggets of accurate, realistic thinking, and life-affirming beliefs. This is the audio version of the legal fine print. Why are you still listening to this when you can catch the next great episode of Therapy Bites Art Lab with a good friend or family member? Really? Are you still there? This is getting silly. Move on to the next psychologically thrilling episode of the best advice on the net. No copay required.
Me eat copay.
Yeah, with Dr. Heath and the TBAL team. Go ahead, don't be podgorophobic. Scoot, scoot, scoot. On to the next episode.